Hello. In this video, I'm going to properly reintroduce Melinda's four-dimensional 2x2 twisty puzzle. This is as opposed to the more standard three-dimensional twisty puzzle. As you can see, this has three dimensions. Dimension 1 is going this way, from left to right. Dimension 2, top to bottom. So that's 2 dimensions, and that's what gives us a square. But by making it three-dimensional, we also have front to back. So we can twist this puzzle in any of these directions, and it is solvable. So this is our two-dimensional twisty puzzle. And many years ago, someone named Melinda Green and one of the people she works with developed what's known as Magic Cube 4D. This is a four-dimensional twisty puzzle, and I can go ahead and show her friend's name was Don Hatch, and they created Magic Cube 4D, and it allowed us to get a software-based representation of a four-dimensional puzzle. In this case, you can see that each of the pieces in this puzzle have been spread out so that you can see rather than being physically connected like they are here. The reason we do this is because on a four-dimensional puzzle, we can't see in 4 dimensions, and so the puzzle pieces would all be overlapping each other. And in fact, this visual image that you're seeing here is actually missing one of its colors. It does not have the outside layer showing here. So whereas on the standard three-dimensional twisty puzzle, we have 6 sides, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. On this puzzle, we have 8 sides, but because they're not flat, it's not a flat surface, instead of calling it a face or a side, we're calling it a cell, and each cell is composed of 8 pieces. So you can see here, for each of these, we have 8 pieces visualized for each of these cells. Now, I said that there are 8 cells, but you can only see 7 here if you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's because, as I mentioned, the 8th cell, the outside cell, actually gets overlapped with these other cells, and we consider it the outside cell. So this puzzle is actually a representation in the three-dimensional world of what this puzzle would be. This is a way for us to interact with it and allow you to turn and solve this in the physical world so that you can actually adjust things. So I'm going to just adjust this like this so we can kind of talk about how this puzzle is this puzzle. The first thing you'll see is on the inside, we have purple and it's got 8 pieces. Well, if I hold this like this, you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pieces of a cell on the inside. But these pieces are all connected, right? So every one of the pieces on this four-dimensional 2x2 is touching 3 other pieces. So each piece is composed of actually 4 components, 4 cells. So each of these pieces we call a sticker, and it takes 4 stickers to build one piece. So in this particular example, actually I'm going to switch to a different one. In this particular example here, we have a 4-dimensional piece, and this piece is composed of a purple, which is the inside, a blue, which is over here, red, which is down here, and white, which is on the top. And so you can see all 4 of those are represented in this single individual piece. And that allows us to mimic and model the 3D puzzle, which is really a nice thing to see. But as I'm saying this, it's not necessarily going to be intuitive how it relates. Well, on this puzzle, there are 3 axes. There's the up and down, left and right, and front and back. And on those axes, we have opposite faces. So orange and red, yellow, white, blue, and green. On this puzzle, the cells have opposites along each axis. So front to back, we have green and blue. Left to right, we have red and orange. Top and bottom, up and down, we have white and yellow, and then we also added the 4th dimension. Now, this is at a right angle. It's 90 degrees to all of the others, but since we live in a three-dimensional world, it doesn't appear to be that way. but this dimension is purple on the inside and pink on the outside. So the way that I have my puzzle positioned here, you can see I have 4 pink here and 4 pink here. That's considered on the outside. And even though they're not physically touching on this puzzle, realistically, they're identical to that. They're the same thing as if I put it like this, where they're all inside touching each other. And in fact, that's true with all of the sides, where you see the oranges here, those are actually physically touching. The purples here, physically touching. All the whites, physically touching. All the yellow, physically touching. So whenever I do something that puts those 2 colors on the inside, that's called a rotation. I'm not actually turning the puzzle. This is all still a solved puzzle. I'm just turning it so I can see it from another angle. Similar to how I'm turning this 3-dimensional puzzle here and able to see it from another angle. So how do we get from this puzzle to this? Well, a man named Joel Carlson actually uploaded a really cool YouTube visualization, so I'm going to briefly switch to that, and I will link his video in the description, but so you can see how this comes together. So before the video starts, you can see it's the same model from the other video, but it's rotated a little bit, so it's in a little bit clearer alignment, and we're still seeing 7 sides. Up and down, white and yellow, front and back, green and blue, left and right, orange and red, and purple on the inside. You're still not seeing the pink yet, but as I actually play his video, you will. So you can see he put the pink on the outside, put them into these triangle stickers, and then shows how they come together into a really cool visualization, which is the same exact puzzle as that. So definitely check out his video. It's just a 10-second video. I think it does a really good job of representing how we go from this to this. All right. So that's introducing what the puzzle is. Now, the other 2 things that I want to introduce are how you can interact with it, turn it, and potentially solve it or scramble it. And then I want to introduce the creator, Melinda Green, and her website, superliminal.com, which you can access and find out more about how she created this puzzle, what it consists of, and even if you wanted to buy your own, how you could do that. So let's start out by talking about Melinda Green. As mentioned before, Melinda Green is an innovator who wanted to experiment with 4-dimensional twisty puzzles. So she and her friend Don Hatch, many years ago, 30 years ago, as of this article's writing, they came up with the first software version of a 4-dimensional puzzle called Magic Cube 4D. And since then, they've ported it to many different platforms. I know, for example, that you can access this program on an Android device, on a Windows device, on a Mac, and so on. There's even some work that's involved, not necessarily by Melinda and her friend Don, on porting it to VR, which I think would be a really cool way to interact with the puzzle. But just because you have a virtual way to solve it, that doesn't actually give you the full satisfaction of being able to twist and solve it like you would a 3-dimensional puzzle. So Melinda wanted to expand that. And I will note that her Magic Cube 4D program, it doesn't just work with 2x2 puzzles. It actually was originally designed for a 3x3 puzzle, and it expanded from there to different options. So I don't want you to think that this is limited in that way, that it's only 2x2s. However, 2x2s have a unique property where all the pieces have the same number of sides. So this piece here has 1, 2, 3 sides, and so do all the others, because 2-dimensional puzzles are composed of corner pieces. That's one unique property which makes it easier to build, because all the sides, all of the pieces, I should say, have the same number of stickers on it. They're all composed of 4. And that makes it a little bit easier to model so that when we turn it, we're adjusting it appropriately, whether we're rotating it like I just did or doing turns, which I will show how to do in a moment. The next thing that's special about the 2x2 puzzle is every turn rotates half of it. This makes it pretty easy to keep track of what's a legitimate move. And you can see as I'm making these turns, even though I'm turning one side, it's turning half of the puzzle. That's because it's only 2-dimensional. It's 1, 2 in every direction. Well, this puzzle does the same thing, and it's one of the ways that she was able to achieve and actually make this a reality. If you want to know more about how she designed the puzzle, I absolutely encourage you to check out her own YouTube, Melinda Green. I will also link that in my video so that you can take a look at that. She also has a playlist, not just introducing this puzzle, but solving it, putting some tips and tricks in, and putting a list together of other people who have solved it. And in fact, on her website, which again is superliminal.com, she has a Hall of Fame where everyone that has recorded it solving it appropriately can actually add their name here and be able to be seen and recorded as to when it was solved. You can see here my name is one of them that are on the list, Damian Flores-Wilson, and there are many other people. Now we're at 95 people who've given proven evidence. Doesn't mean we're the only 95 people, and in fact she shipped it to many others, but it does say that these are the people who've taken the time to record it and prove that yes, they actually have solved it. Here you can see a visualization where quite a few more than 95 people have been sent this puzzle to test and try and to solve. Now you may be wondering, I would love to do this. I would like to do one for myself. So if you go ahead and click there on this screen or follow her links like how to get one, it'll take you to this other page on the superliminal.com website called Ordering Melinda's 2x2x2x2. So it's a 4-dimensional 2x2. Currently, she is selling these at fixed prices. So if you want a kit so that you can build it yourself, which involves putting in all of the magnets, she will send you tools that include the magnets, all of the pieces or stickers, a magnet guide so you can get the polarity correct, and a similar magnet that's color-coded so you can see what it is, along with the sticks to help you position the magnets specifically. However, if you're looking at that and you're thinking, that's quite a lot of magnets, that's a lot of stickers, I don't want to assemble it myself, she does also sell them pre-assembled for an additional $20. And then she does charge shipping. She is based in the United States, so her domestic shipping is $10, but if she is shipping it to you in a different country, it's going to be a $25 shipping charge. You just email her and she has links to do so on this page if you want to purchase one. I think that this is a phenomenal addition to any puzzle collection and strongly recommend checking it out. I think it's a fun puzzle to solve and it's definitely great to support her. These were originally 3D printed, but now they are actually injection molded, so they're a higher quality plastic. They feel really nice to interact with and to twist and turn and solve. And I really cannot praise them enough. I think what she has achieved with this puzzle is just phenomenal. So that's the introduction to what we know about the puzzle, how you can buy one, and how it relates to a 4-dimensional virtual puzzle, which again, she helped create the program for. The other thing I want to do in this video is really introduce you to the puzzle itself. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to tell you how you can turn it. So if we remember in our 3-dimensional puzzle, every turn has to move half of the pieces. So because this is composed of 16 different pieces that are all magnetic, theoretically we can adjust and put things together in random ways. But that's not representative of the puzzle. That's not how the actual virtual puzzle would move. So what she did instead is she came up with a set of canonical turns that allow you to interact with this puzzle in ways that are only changing it the same way you would on the software. So one example of what you can do is you can rotate the puzzle, and rotating it does not turn it, it doesn't change it. So rotating it is the same, like I said before, as physically rotating the 3D puzzle. So you can rotate it by taking the two halves and turning them so that the same color stays on the inside and all of the other pieces are in the same alignment from before you rotated. Now, it's not always going to match because after you scramble it, that's still a rotation, this motion where you turn them in inverse directions to face the same way. All I'm doing is rotating the puzzle. But one thing you may be noticing is as I'm doing these rotations, my white and yellow are staying on the outside. They might change sides if I do something like this, where I put them on the opposite sides, but they're still staying on the outside. So with this puzzle, we don't have that limitation, right? We can put any side we want on top, or as it would be on here, on an inside. So she had to come up with a series of moves, and she worked with the community after introducing her creation to come up with a series of moves that are legally able to turn these outside pieces into inside pieces. And what they're going to do is they're going to take the pieces on the front, the purple here, and on the back, the pink here, and whenever you scramble them, it's whatever pieces are in these positions are going to go to the outside. And we do that by making what would otherwise be an illegal turn, and I'll talk about legal turns more in a moment, but to complete the final rotation, we take the top half, move it to the bottom, swing the pieces around so that they're on the opposite side, and you can see we've already put the purple and pink on the outside by doing those two moves. However, the puzzle's no longer solved because we've mixed around where they are. So we're gonna do a couple more moves. We're gonna open it up wide and fold it flat, stand it up, turn it, do that again. And then we're gonna stand it up and turn it and do it one more time. And you can see as I'm doing it, these pieces are going to come together so that now all of the purple's on the outside, all the pink's on the outside, the white is on the inside, and yellow is on the inside. Everything is still solved. I haven't actually scrambled the puzzle by doing that. I've just done a 4-dimensional rotation. So that's how you can turn and observe the puzzle, and also you can prepare to make turns by doing that. So what is a turn then? Well, a turn is something like this, where you're physically turning half of the pieces in a 3-dimensional manner. And it can be anything you want. All of these are legal turns when you're taking the two halves, left and right, and moving them around. These are all legal turns because they're moving half the pieces, they're moving them 4-dimensionally, and they're rearranging things, but without doing an uneven number of turns. The other way you can turn this is you can turn the top and bottom half. So you see I did a rotation on this side and I flipped that. That's a single turn. It's moving all of these pieces. Now I can't do that because that takes it out of a symmetric shape and I can't continue with my turns. For example, I can't split it in half properly. So if I wanted to do some additional turns, I would have to rearrange it. But that is a legal turn because I'm doing half of it. So that's 2 legal turns, 1 and 2. We have one more style of legal turn, which can be done in a couple different ways. The idea is to either turn the inside or the outside in the same direction. So I say inside or outside, but effectively when you turn one, you're effectively turning the other. The same way when I turn this side is now different from this side. Both have been moved relative to each other. So the way this can be turned is, the simple way is to break it up like this, and then you can rotate the center or you can rotate the outside pieces. But if you want to solve it while you're actually going and you don't want to take the time to physically separate the magnets, but you still want to do a turn, you can do it like this, where you hold the top and bottom in place and just turn the 2 inner layers. But that can be a bit tricky on your hands. Sometimes you'll do something like this, which is an illegal turn until you mirror it and do that. Which shows us the last way of doing this turn is you can turn one side at a time as long as they turn in the same direction. You have to complete a mirrored turn so that you're turning it together. If I did this, for example, that's not a legitimate turn because that's the equivalent of moving this differently on each side. So I'm moving more than 8 pieces. It's not the same thing. Whereas when I turn them in the same direction, these have moved or these have moved, but either way, it's exactly the 8 pieces. So that is our third way to do a legal turn. And if you combine those, you can get a full scramble, and alongside the rotations, including physical rotations and the gyro rotation, that gives you all of the pieces you need to put the puzzle into every single position that's possible in the software. It's not necessarily as easy. For example, if I wanted to turn this purple side, I do need to gyro it first. I need to rotate the puzzle before I can do my turn, which is okay. It just takes a couple more steps so that we can create a real-world 3-dimensional analog to the turn we were talking about before. So now I have the purple on the inside and I can rotate it, do a turn just like that. Alternatively, I could do it like that is a turn of the orange side of the purple side as well. So that's introducing how you can turn this puzzle. There are rotations and there are turns, and those are how you can turn it. If you do anything else like that, that's an illegitimate turn, and technically that's not a valid way of interacting with the puzzle. So I'm going to discourage you from doing that. You can't do something like this because this kind of breaks the coherence of having outside pieces and inside pieces. Puts the outside on the inner diamond. It's messy. So the only way when you're scrambling, the only way when you're solving this to do it legitimately is to do a full gyro rotation. If you stop here, you've technically turned the puzzle, so it's not considered a legitimate turn, even though in theory you could have done that turn willfully. To simplify and make the puzzle easier to track and know what you're doing and make your moves intentional, we are requiring that you complete the gyro and then do whatever turns you want. That means there are some moves that you could do which will do a series of legal turns. For example, that part that I used to finish that scramble, this clamshell motion where I open it up one way and then close it the other, you could get to this state legally. It's actually only a couple turns. So you see, I just went back, that's 3 turns, and it does the same thing. So you can see the puzzle's now solved again. And if I do those same moves, I will undo that change by simply undoing the clamshell. So that's the same series of moves, but when you're solving it, you need to do it legally, right? You have to use the proper steps. That way, you don't get confused about whether or not you've ultimately made a legal turn. You know that every turn you make was a legitimate way of solving it. Now, I will say, if you are scrambling it, a lot of people do like to do a shorthand scramble where they do this and then they turn the cubes and then continue doing it. That's fine. You can do it that way if that's the best way for you to scramble it. Obviously, you could solve it however you want. It's your puzzle. However, we want to really indicate that that's not how it's intended to be scrambled or solved. Doesn't mean it's like you're not violating anything, but if you do it that way, it won't get posted on, for example, the Hall of Fame, because as far as we're aware, you don't actually know how to solve the puzzle, even if you feel pretty confident that you do. So you can see right now, I am just undoing that mixture of scrambles, and we'll see if I actually do it successfully, because you have to do it in the right order. It doesn't work. And no, I just did the same moves. So turn it like this. Yeah, so to undo that scramble that I did, you have to move the pieces around and then do the equivalent of doing a checkerboard pattern. But you can get it back to the correct state if you complete the appropriate series of turns. That's how you know that scramble is legitimate, right? I was able to do legal turns and get it back to solved. But again, unless you're specifically stating every turn you're making, really, when you're solving it, we want to know that you can do it just doing the legal turns and you know how you're doing it. That's everything I wanted to cover in this video. That's how you can solve it. Usually the way I would solve it is I form these outside layers, I do my gyro so that they're on the outside, and then I make them white and yellow, and then I solve the halves, like the same way that you would solve a 2x2, except every turn has to be mirrored on both sides as you're going. It doesn't mean you're solving them at the same time. One common technique, for example, is to do one side like this, where after every turn, you just move it along the same axis in a mirrored way, so you can get different responses on each side, but you do have to make the same number of turns in the same direction after you've made your other turns like that. All right, I hope you enjoyed this video. Definitely please check out Joel's channel and check out Melinda's channel and her website, because I hope that more people buy this. I think it's a super fun puzzle. I think it's a good challenge, and I think you will enjoy solving it as well. In another video, I go through more in depth on solving it using my beginner method for a 2x2, which is really simple. It's just solve one side, then solve the other, and then I show kind of how that, if you can do that, you can solve her 4-dimensional puzzle as well. So you see, that's what I do. I do one side. This is not the fast way, and there are much better demos on how to do this correctly and quickly. But if you do it this way, if you can do this basic solve of the 3-dimensional puzzle, and if you can learn the gyro, you can solve this too. All right, now I really will stop talking now. Hope you have a great day, and bye.